Hello everyone. Hello. Today we're going to be talking about something different, and that is a PC that a player character that I've played as, rather than an NPC. And that would be Dravil Mixson. He was a human. He was a human draconic sorcerer, variant human. Pick the linguist feat, because languages. Yeah, he had like 8 languages. I loved it. But, yes, his draconic, the draconic bloodline I picked was a black dragon, because I wanted to go for this idea of him being kind of a good person, a lot of ways, and being raised by good adoptive parents. We'll get into that in a minute. And just having a strong moral foundation there, but him having a lot of vices because of, well, being part black dragon. They just kind of drive at this greed and this pride, things like that. But we backtrack a little bit to get into kind of how he was raised and what his origin is as a character. What I made up for him was that his original parents were gone, just out of the picture, just poof. He doesn't know where they were. He never met them. I don't know. Yeah. Unfortunately, did not get to play enough in that campaign to see what the DM had planned for those parents. But yes, they were gone. Batismo, Thanos snapped. But then, Dravil, as a baby, was picked up and adopted. Adopted by 2 wonderful individuals named Drava and Villa Mixson. Drava and Villa. Wait, Drava is a dragonborn blacksmith, and Villa was if I remember correctly, a tiefling bard who ran a tailor shop. And the entire kind of idea was that Drava Villa happily raised this boy of mine, and it was genuinely like a wholesome family, despite being an orphan, as many characters are. I kind of wrote it to be like he came from genuinely a very healthy and wholesome home, due to his parents loving him. But it's not that there wasn't without friction. See, not a lot of other people liked Dravil. not a lot of people did. And it's kind of obvious. He has scales growing on him. He has black scales growing upon him as a human. That looks a little weird. Plus, well, his parents were really lovely. His parentage did look very strange to other people, because he's a human being raised by a dragonborn tiefling. So this led to a lot of friction between him and other people, especially because Dravil did not take kindly to his parents being insulted. It annoyed him, angered him, to an extent in that which he would be willing to kill people, and he did. It happened a couple of times. There was one particular instance where he was as young as 13, and a boy had called his mother's some very particular words revolving around, the fact that they're a tiefling and a dragonborn, and how weird that is in their eyes. And Dravil just kind of made the kid melt. Didn't really mean to, It was like canonically the first time he'd like used a leveled spell. But yeah, he didn't really feel bad about doing it. In fact, right then and further on in the campaign, didn't really feel bad about most things he did, ever. And that's another kind of tying back to kind of the black scale Dragonborn features of him. Because Dravil, one of the kind of side effects that I like to roll with him being draconic is that it, with a chromatic dragon nonetheless, is that it kind of made him a little bit of a psycho in a certain sense of the word. Not in that he enjoyed hurting people necessarily, not that he went out of his way to do so. In fact, most of the time he went out of his way to help people. But at the end of the day, when he saw people suffering, it did not elicit any emotion from him, good nor bad. Just blank. He just had no empathy for people. The only people he really cared that much about on a certain basic level were his parents. Everyone else he didn't really fundamentally care about. He would still help people. In fact, he helps everyone he ever meets, usually. And that's simply because he was raised to do that. You could say that being raised by Villa and Drava was a great thing for the world, because otherwise Dravil would probably be a very, very awful person with his lack of empathy. But he isn't. He was raised to do right, and he'll do right. That's what he's always done. And in the campaign he was in, it was very interesting because his entire shtick, because both of his parents being in like artisan stuff, he ended up wanting to be a merchant, wanted to sell things, buy and sell things. And so that's kind of what he did for a while before he went on adventuring, is that he was just a merchant, kind of ran essentially a pawn shop where he would just buy things. And the thing that attracted people to his store is that, unlike a lot of other stores in that city, it didn't really matter what species you were coming into his store. He didn't give a shit, which was very, very appealing to a lot of people. And unfortunately, there's not much else to talk about. I guess I could talk about some of the fun things that happened with him throughout that campaign. There was the time there was a time he lost his virginity when he really didn't want to. That was a thing. That sounds worse than it is now that I've said it. Oops. Sorry. But what happened was, so I had kind of made out that he was a virgin, because it came up. It's not something I literally planned, but it's something that ended up coming up in the campaign, and I was asked. So I said he was a virgin, because that just made the most sense off the top of my head. I don't think he actually managed to get with anyone before the time of the campaign, anyway. And what ended up happening was that during one big mission, they ended up needing to... Dravil and the rest of the party ended up needing to find information about some type of weird rebellion that was going on in the town to like overthrow their local guard and shit. And we were hired by the guard to figure it out. Stop it. So we're like, alright. And we found out after some poking and prodding around the town that this one prostitute may have the answers we need. And because Dravil was the only one of the party with a notable charisma score at the time, he was pushed to go and negotiate with the prostitute and try and figure something out. And so he did. He did. And the way it ended up kind of playing out with what he could glean and what we could figure out is that the only thing that she really had that was useful was this amulet thing that may or may not be tied to what we're looking for. But she's not going to give it up. So, I devise a plan in my player mind. My plan is to make Dravil sleep with this woman, and then, in the aftermath, while she is getting herself cleaned up, I would have Dravil sleight of hand the amulet. Because his dexterity is pretty solid to do such a check, and it would give me advantage because of her being distracted with cleaning up. So that's what I do. That's what we do. Loses his virginity this way, and then, with advantage, double net once. Double net fucking once. And then he gives me, the DM gives me pity because he really appreciated the creativity behind my attempt. So he said I could roll with advantage one more time. And I still rolled below the DC. Not double net ones again, but I rolled below the DC both times again. So, poor Dravil was just... he just got away from that. Had to lose his virginity. A random girl he didn't even know the name of. And he didn't even get to... get the thing he wanted. God. Poor innocent boy. Yeah, something else I didn't really talk about. I should have mentioned it before, but it's the reason why Dravil ended up doing the, adventuring thing with the party. So the entire shtick is that the entire shtick of the campaign as a whole, anyway, was that there was like a city underground after shit went absolutely apeshit everywhere else in the world. But then, like, the thing that's like, there's like this big crystal thing, and like the ceiling of the cavern where the city is, that kind of provides a lot of the good things in the city and helps it be run. But then the crystal starts diminishing, it starts cracking, and very clearly like it's going to fail eventually soon. And so they decide, the elders of the city decide they're going to actually start sending out adventurers to try and find some way to repair it, or find a replacement, or a new place to be altogether. And what they end up deciding on is that they... And so the group deciding on those... Sorry, bad. My brain trailed off because brain's fucking dumb. Sorry, I'm taking a second. I'm not cutting this out. Fuck, you're just gonna sit here as my brain compiles information. Fuck a script. He ended up getting... So, yeah, the party. Like, a bunch of people, including him, and the reason why he ended up going out to try and do this and help them is because he believes that this will be a way to pay back Villa and Dravil, essentially. He views Villa and Dravil adopting him and raising him with such a good life and giving him skills as like everything. He puts them on this huge pedestal in his mind, and he feels like he has so much to pay back to them. Even though they tell him again and again that he doesn't have to do anything, he still wants to. And thus, he wants to save the entire city in honor of them. It's really sweet. I was noted as having the most wholesome backstory of that party. And yeah. So Dravil goes out with the party and just shenanigans go on after that. Oh yeah, fun note. Despite the fact that I made Dravil be like 5'10", which isn't like a bad height at all, he still happened to be the shortest person in the party by far, because everyone else was playing something that could be ludicrously tall. And I'm not joking. Everyone else, the other 3 players were 2 Warforged, who both stood somewhere in the somewhere around 7 feet. And then the last one was a Goliath, who was around 8 feet. So poor Dravil at 5'10", just sitting there, just small, the small man. Yeah. Also, recommendation: if you're gonna play as a Draconic Sorcerer, probably don't go with Black Scales, the Black Lineage, because acid, there's not a lot of variety for fucking acid damage, my guy. Oh my fucking god. I'm so annoyed. I should have thought about that before I made the character, but I didn't. At the time, I was just struggling because I had no way to deal acid damage outside of very specific abilities. Nowadays, there's transmuted something. It's a meta magic which can change damage types, which is so much more useful. But even then, that costs fucking like spell point. So yeah, just a shame. So yeah, that is Dravil. That is his backstory and a little bit of shenanigans he went through. I hope you enjoyed recounting my story. If any of you have any stories of PCs that you've played as that you've enjoyed, or NPCs that you've encountered that you've enjoyed, feel free to leave a comment about them, and I might include them in a video at some point. So, hope you have a good time, and please acid splash that like button and subscribe. Love you guys.